double honors to our apostles and elders of great millstone, which taught us the truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure unto the end. Shalom. All right. So this is from Reuters. All right. And it was published September 30th, 2021. The year of hastening the coming day of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, which today is October 1st, all right? And the U.S. debt ceiling has been raised, and this title here says a lot. It says, U.S. debt ceiling impasse warrants nuclear options. So the U.S. debt ceiling was America's debt pretty much being lifted up to where they got a higher amount of debt allowed to them. Impasse, this word impasse means
impasse,
a situation in which no progress is possible. All right, a deadlock. All right, look, a stalemate, a dead end, checkmate. All right, and this is checkmate on America, on Esau's kingdom. Esau being the so-called white man, the devil the Bible speaks of. All right, because there will be no progress possible in this situation. All right, so the U.S. debt ceiling impasse, which means no progress possible, warrants, which that word warrant, let's go ahead and get it. Okay, and we want it as a verb, meaning an action. Justify or necessitate a certain course of action. Okay, so warrants means this is what's going to happen because of this debt, where there will be no progress allowed. It says nuclear options. All right, so this is going to bring America to its knees in nuclear destruction. Okay, which is prophesied in the Holy Scriptures. The Holy Scriptures are prophecy. This is what they don't tell you in your churches. All right, because it prophesies the destruction of America. All right. So in Habakkuk 2, verse 3, excuse me, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, and the time is the end. But at the end it shall speak and not lie. And that's why all these things are happening now, because we are in the end of this wicked society. Though it tarry, meaning it's not happening right away, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. It's going to happen quicker than you think. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. The Edomite, the so-called white man, the devil the Bible speaks of, is a proud devil, and his soul in him is lifted up and is not upright. It says in verse 5, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine. All right, I'm going to show you forms of that wine, which is his philosophies, his doctrines. This is a form of that unjust wine. All right. Another form of that wine is the implantable microchip, which they're going to make mandatory for buying and selling. All right, and they're going to push it worldwide. And this was prophesied, all right, in the past, really in the beginning of this end of this Edomite's empire, which in the book of Daniel, all right, Daniel was in Babylon, and Nebuchadnezzar, the Assyrian king, was having dreams of eventually this Edomite empire, which would be the superpower of America, being destroyed right along with all the heathens' kingdoms. all right, which were in the feet, which are iron and clay, which goes back to America, EU, which they have the military force of NATO. It says, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, so he lies in his philosophies and in his educations. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, he invades all these countries, who enlargeth his desire as hell, which he kills a lot of people, and is as death. So the so-called white man is as death, and cannot be satisfied, which they always want more, but gathereth unto him all nations. Look at the UN nations, as well as he sits upon the European Union. He heapeth unto him all people. Okay, which when you go to Revelation 17, okay, talks about this bitch. Revelation 17 verse 1, and there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Alright, and those waters are the people. It says, verse 15, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou excuse me. All right. President Biden signs bill funding government into December. Okay. So they're bringing this upon themselves, as it says, and to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And how long? That's the same thing that the saints were saying in the spirit world. Revelation 6, verse 9, and when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also, and their brethren that should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. And then it goes into verse 12, which is the nuclear destruction of America. Alright? And what they're going to do is they're going to persecute the saints, because they're going to make that implantable microchip mandatory for buying and selling. Alright? Matthew 24, verse 7, For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows, the beginning of Jacob's trouble. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. So as soon as they attack the prophets, alright, they're going to actually fight each other, which is going to be a nuclear war, which is happening, which I just showed you right here. Because these other countries are pissed off. America can't pay its debts. Alright, it's like being in a marriage and you're trying to get yourself together, pay off your debt, and you got a wife, a wife that's a whore, and she's fucking making debt with all these other nations, these other men. Alright, so what's going to happen is they're going to destroy this whore. It tells you that in Revelation 17. Okay? Remember, it said the judgment of this great whore, When you go to verse 11, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, which is America, and is of the seven, and goeth into perdition, which is talking about this image right here. All right? It's the system that is being set up before our eyes today. And then, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, the European Union kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. All right, so the Lord is going to fight them. Why? Because they're going to make war with his saints. Okay, verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. Okay, so the system is going to use their NATO and their UN nation armies, all right, to fight against the saints and against the angels which follow Yahushua. All right, and they're on the chariots, the so-called UFOs. That's why they're revealing that there is so-called UFOs, and they're over America. America is Babylon, who are to be destroyed. Babylon the Great and virgin daughter Babylon. All right, virgin daughter of Babylon. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Why are they going to hate the whore? Because she's associated with them, and she's causing debt. All right, that she don't have any intentions of paying back. It says, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And what you got to remember, in America, they made people lazy and weak and soft. And in America, they say after 7 years, your debt, it falls off your record. You don't have to even pay it back. But in other countries, if you've ever been outside of America, these other countries, you don't get away with not paying your debt. You go to prison, people could kill you. All right? They come into your home, take everything from you. Well, that's what's going to happen to America, because she's indebted to the world. Okay? And she's even laying more debt on herself by raising the debt ceiling. Let's go to Daniel 2. Okay. So this is going into that dream of Nebuchadnezzar. All right. And I'm going to just go to the point. Right here. This is Daniel 2, verse 36. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Which, these are the 10 horns, these are the 10 toes of his dream, which he dreamed of this statue, a gold head, which is pertaining to him and his kingdom. All right. And then the 2 arms and the chest, which were silver, which were Medes and the Persians. And then you had the belly, or the loins of brass, which is the Greeks. And then you had the 2 legs, which were iron, pertaining to the Roman Empire. Once again, the first Roman pagan empire, and now the reincarnation of the Roman Empire today. And then out of those 2 legs, you have 10 toes, which belong to the feet. And the feet are half iron and half clay. It says in verse 37, Thou, O King, art a King of kings, for Yahweh of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the sons of men dwell, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand. So that was the superpower back then, was Babylon. Right before them, it was the Egypt. All right, and then after them was the Medes, the Persians, and then the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then now you got America with its allies, EU, which they're associated with the UN. It says, and hath made, it says, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So he's talking to Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. That's why it's silver. And another third kingdom of brass, which is even more inferior, which shall bear rule over all the earth. So the Greeks, starting with Alexander the Greek, which was the first Edomite, pretty much ruling as a king of a superpower, right? Which were the Greeks, which was the brass. It says, which shall bear rule over all the earth, meaning they're that superpower of that time, the Greeks. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, which is Rome. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise, which it conquered the known world back then. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, which we live in this time, part of potter's clay, which is weak, and part of iron, which is strong, the kingdom shall be divided, which it is divided. Look at Brexit. Look at this move right here that America just did. That's weak. All right. It says, but there shall be in it of the strength of iron, because it's the reincarnated Romans. For as much as thou sawest the iron, which was Rome, mixed with miry clay, which is that debt, which makes it weak. And as the toes, which pertain to those 7 heads and 10 horns, EU and its EU kings of the feet, were part of iron and part of clay, meaning these countries are, some are strong and some are weak. So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Look at Brexit. You had a French it. There was a couple, Italy exit. You know, they were trying to separate themselves from the European Union. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, which is that filthy debt, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, which, once again, they're associated to the United Nations. It says, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven, Yahweh, set up a kingdom through his son Yahushai, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever, which is the kingdom of heaven, pertaining to the Israelites. The Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which have been scattered throughout the world of slavery. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, which is that ship, the so-called UFO that Yahushua comes upon, and that it break in pieces the iron and the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, which it's going to destroy with that fire that comes out of the chariot. That's that stone that destroyed these kingdoms, starting with the feet. A good example of this is in 2nd Ezra 3. All right. 2nd Ezra 13, verse 3. All right. 2nd Ezra 13:3, and I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven, and when he turned his countenance to look, which is Yahushua on top of the chariot, all the things trembled that were seen under him, which they're going to be destroyed, nuclear missiles and chariot fire. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it filleth the fire. Which, let's see, I got an image of that. Damn. He's going to burn them up. All right. Verse 6, and I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it, which this is a chariot. But it's huge. All right, beyond your understanding, you know. And he's going to fight against these other nations for the elect's sake. It says in verse 45 of Daniel 2, for as much as thou sawest that the stone was cast out of the mountain without hands, cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great God, which is the great power, hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. And the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face, worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. All right. So he knew his kingdom was going to be taken from his lineage. All right. That's what that image meant. All right. Because they were the Babylonians, and it was going to be given to the Medes and the Persians. And then it was going to be taken from them and given to the Greeks, taken from them and given to the Romans. And they're going to be reincarnated today, all right, the Roman Empire, which rule over us today, confederate with these other nations. All right? But they're going to be destroyed because, as has been prophesied, all right, that Yahushua would be sent from heaven and he would destroy them. All right? He would destroy these empires and break them into pieces as powder's vessels. All praises and glory to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, Ba'asham HaRuach Kodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which taught us the truth, the Shalom to the hopeful elect. May you endure into the end. Shalom.